Facts and Fancies about Reincarnation. Part 2. All the evidence put forward as proof of human reincarnation, insofar as it has come to my attention, is, I feel confident, but a misinterpretation of actual fact. I have no occasion to question the honesty of the witnesses. They without doubt report what is seen and what is felt, as it seems to them. But as these experiences are invariably of a psychic nature, they must be interpreted in the light of what is known to be the conditions imposed upon cyclically received information. When so interpreted, they prove not human reincarnation, but certain laws governing psychic phenomena. As an example from many, an elderly lady and her companion were traveling through the state of Minnesota when the engine broke down and the train could not move for several hours. Although she had never been in the state before, she felt an intimate sense of familiarity with her environment. Looking out of the window, she saw a large old house, and as she looked, she felt she had at one time lived in it. So familiar with it did she feel, that she described the interior arrangement of the rooms and other details to her companion. Finding that the train would not move for some time, they left it and went to the house and asked permission to go through it. Everything was arranged just as described. Subsequently, this lady came in touch with the doctrine of human reincarnation. On the strength of her experience, she grasped the doctrine readily and lost no opportunity to tell her story as a verification of it, stoutly affirming she remembered living in the house in a previous incarnation. Finally, a friend took the trouble to look up the history of the section where the house was located, and found that it had been settled at a date much later than the lady's birth, and that there had been no houses in the section previous to a time when the lady who had the experience was full grown in the present life. Therefore, although familiar with the interior of the house, and feeling sure she had lived in it in a previous life, she could not have done so because the house was not there until long after her present birth. I could fill a large volume with the experiences of those who feel certain they remember past lives, in which factors are present that when looked up historically have proved beyond any doubt that the experiences as described could not have taken place. This remembering of past lives is on a par with reading the Akashic records. It is a similar experience and under the same laws. Therefore, without in any manner wishing to question the sincerity of either, but using them merely as examples with which to illustrate the utter fallibility of cyclically received information when it has any bearing upon established religious conviction, I may be pardoned, I hope, for mentioning Dr. Rudolf Steiner and Mr. Leadbeater. These two men, Dr. Steiner as the head of the Anthroposophical Society, and Mr. Leadbeater as a theosophical leader, together with the lady to be mentioned shortly, are perhaps the most influential exponents of the theory of human reincarnation in the world today. All three are believed by their followers to be gifted with wonderfully accurate psychic powers. Yet these very psychic powers depended upon to verify the theory of human reincarnation, when actually put to a test, which later came within the scope of historical verification, failed miserably. Dr. Steiner, reading the Akashic records, finds the discrepancy between the genealogies of Jesus, as given in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, is due to the fact that there was no one Jesus but two. The evidence, as summed up by the editor of the Occult Review, is surely the obvious and only tenable conclusion we can arrive at is that through some method or other, the records of the Zohar found their way into Steiner's brain. In other words, instead of the infallible reading of the Akashic records, Dr. Steiner was merely reading a tradition embodied in the Zohar, and probably having no basis whatever in fact. Mr. Leadbeater, through his seership, was able to write the lives of Ulysses, but it has turned out there is reliable historical evidence that his chronology is wrong, and ample evidence that the names he gives to his characters, instead of being read from the Akashic records, have been taken clairvoyantly or otherwise from a modern writer. In regard to him, the editor of the Occult Review concludes, with the latter, however, there is the suggestion or suspicion of tinkering with earlier historical records and putting them in a new setting with a view to establishing or defending certain reincarnationalist theories, with which history, by a violent abuse of chronological facts, is made to square. Here, of course, space does not permit of extensive comment, but the writer quoted is notably sympathetic both to human reincarnation and to theosophy. For a full discussion of the reading of the Akashic records by Dr. Steiner and Mr. Leadbeater, I must refer the reader to Notes of the Month, and the two articles, all appearing in the Occult Review for January 1923. I might go on to show how another theosophical leader and world-renowned exponent of human reincarnation, for a long period claimed to remember she had been Cleopatra in a past reincarnation, but has lately decided she was not. I might take up one by one the statements of prominent persons regarding their past lives, and give these statements the benefit of analysis. But not only is this too much like criticizing people, but I am convinced that in most cases they are quite sincere in their belief, and that this sincerity springs from actual psychic experiences which have been misinterpreted. In the first place, due to actual substance, inner penetrating and surrounding all, retaining whatever vibrations are imparted to it, every idea ever held by man, and every thought having passed through his mind, persist in the astral. All the world's events in the past have left their impress as vibrations in the astral substance associated with this earth. A person naturally sensitive or one having cultivated the lucidic senses, who comes into rapport with the astral vibrations, recording a past event, sees that event as if it were taking place before his eyes. Just as a psychometrist, upon touching a letter written by someone years before, as all the thoughts and sensations that the person had while writing the letter. So a sensitive person who comes into rapport with an astral record feels as if he were actually witnessing or taking part in the recorded event.